Hello, welcome back to Kapu. I got my PhD back in 2024. I wanted to give you guys some advice if you're also going for your PhD. Work on your dissertation for bare minimum 20 hours a week. I feel like a lot of people are fully employed when they're going for their PhD, which is why I say bare minimum 20. I was working full-time since forever. So bare minimum, I was working on my PhD for 20 hours a week. If you're lucky and you're not having to work full-time, work on your PhD at least 40 hours a week. I don't know, make it a full-time job. That's how you're gonna see progress. You really have to put the time. Number two is what I recommend is be flexible. Once you started your PhD program, all the way up to when you're finishing, your study is gonna change and evolve, and you're gonna make yourself a barrier if you decide you don't want it to change. But the more you study, the more you research, the more the research is gonna tell you that your study is gonna evolve into a lot of ways, and you have to just let it evolve. Don't try to force fit it into what you think it's gonna be. Don't try to force fit it into results you expect. Just let it be flexible. Going into the flexibility, that also has to do with taking the advice of your committee. You get a lot of feedback, that's pretty common, and just accept it. Just be calm and just be flexible whenever you get feedback as well. Third piece of advice is I prioritized my health and my PhD journey because you need to be healthy along the way. And by that, I mean, I was making sure that I was getting my gym workouts in, and I was making sure that I was getting a good amount of sleep as much as possible. I said I wasn't working out, and then I was just full force working on my dissertation. That's whenever I started to feel a lot of body pain, and that was because I wasn't moving my body, and I was just kind of like crunched over, like typing on the computer. And it's very important to prioritize your health because you got to feel good in order to be productive. One of the things that my chair recommended for me was because at one point I was really struggling to fall asleep because I would get off of the computer too late at night, and then my brain would just be like in school mode. So something that my chair recommended to me, which I actually took this advice and I loved it, is she told me to do something that was like brain rot basically for the last hour before I go to bed. That way it was just easier to fall asleep. That way when I woke up, I felt more refreshed and I felt like I was ready to go and I had the energy to continue working on my dissertation. My next advice is to surround yourself with motivation. I was listening to motivational podcasts, motivational songs. I was following this YouTuber, Stephanie Buttermore, who's also going for her PhD at the time, and she was really into fitness. I found her very motivational, especially with my academics. And so I was just watching a lot of YouTubers, influencers who were also in high academics, high education. And I just found that something that motivated me. Last piece of advice is to not compare yourself to other people's journeys, because unlike a bachelor's and a master's degree, when you're going for your PhD, there's no like set deadline of when you graduate. It's basically when you finish your dissertation and you pass your defense. So you're gonna see, like, whenever I was on my PhD journey, I was seeing my friends and I like ahead of me or behind me, but then sometimes we would take turns passing each other at some point. And what's very important is to not compare yourself to other people, because then it gets inside your head. But just remember that everybody's study is different. And so you're gonna experience different obstacles than them along the journey. So my best piece of advice is to not compare yourself to those around you. Other thing that I was struggling with was I was comparing myself a lot to just everybody. I was comparing myself to my friends who were getting married, getting into relationships, and that was just not something that was on the table for me at the time because I was so focused on my academics that it just didn't happen for me. That is my top 5 as far as advice on how to navigate your PhD program. So if you're on the journey, it's a tough journey, but try your best to have a lot of fun and enjoy it. And it is so worth it. Have a good day. Bye.